Radio. Rahim here with Virgil Hunter. Virgil, you're here on this platform with yet another superstar in boxing, another pay-per-view event. This is how you're kicking off 2014. First of all, talk to me about not just Angulo, but what you see for yourself and your camp this year coming.
Well, you know, this fight in particular is a great opportunity for us and for Angulo and for myself. It's a great platform, and I'm glad to have the opportunity, and I feel blessed to be here and very excited about this camp. This is what coaches strive for. This is what we work hard for, and to get the opportunity is just a great thing. The team, I'm looking for good things from the team. You know, my number one guy is back healthy, and I'm looking for him to pick up where he left off and just dominating anybody that gets in the ring with him. That's just a fact. You know, I'm looking for growth from everybody else, and you know, I have some young kids that have had some setbacks in their career, and they're trying to revive and resurrect it. And you know, I'm gonna do everything that I can to help them achieve that, and you know, just implement a lot of positive things and try to take everybody to the next level and have fun doing it.
You know, you have a stable of 3 fighters at if not the pinnacle of their career, at least at very important stages in their career, and they're all 3 very popular. So we're going to work our way around all 3. But before we get off of Angulo, there's a picture circulating around with you and Khan and Angulo in the pool. Obviously, they would be training together in the same camp. But what's interesting about that photo, at least to me, is that they seem to both be in need of learning how to fight against the other one's style. Are you doing any of that in camp? Are you having them learn off of each other in that way?
Well, yes, Khan and Angulo do box each other, and you know, I have to agree with you. It's good to learn from each other. Whether it's just good to learn different styles and be in there with different people who have different abilities. So they're in the same camp. The weight is quite close, so they've done a lot of rounds together, and they'll continue to do it. So iron sharpens iron, and that's what I'm looking for.
Last time you were out with Angulo and I was there, it was the post-fight for Lara. It seemed to be a very emotional time, and the details of what your conversation was with Angulo aren't released, but the gist of it seemed to be that maybe he was considering hanging up the gloves, or at least very devastated by the loss. How did you get from that mindset to a place where he's going to fight arguably one of the top pound for pound fighters in the business?
Well, that statement is new to me about him hanging up his gloves. I never known him to say he was going to hang up his gloves, or I never suggested to him hang up his gloves. I felt that he really grew that night, and he showed me that he had an upside, and that his career was a long ways from over. He had an unfortunate incident with his eye. I'll reserve what I think about what happened to his eye. The fight is over with. But when you look at the fight in general, look at the fight as a whole, he was in that fight, he was up on one scorecard, and I felt that the incident had to happen with the eye. He would have finished Lara before the 12th round. I'm very confident that Lara was done. So no, why would I tell him to hang up his gloves off a performance like that? I think that was a career booster and a morale booster for him. Yeah, he had to overcome the retina scratch. Thank goodness it wasn't anything more serious than that. And the disappointment of losing, of course, but it wasn't anything that was going to set him back or depress him or make him think he should go into another profession.
You call the incident of the injury, you call it an incident, but it wasn't a foul, and I would think most people do agree with you that Angulo was winning the fight up until that point. It sounds like there's something in there where you're not accepting this as a legitimate loss, even though it wasn't called a foul. Why is it an incident and not a legitimate TKO?
Well, I mean, you've been around boxing a while, and you tell me, whenever you see a fighter turn around abruptly like that, it's either a headbutt or a thumb. He's been walking through his punches all night long. That punch he threw was nothing was on that punch. He walked through his punches all night long. And the punch that supposedly stopped the fight, he didn't get knocked down. He didn't get wobbled. He abruptly turned around and turned away and put his glove over his eye. That's what he did. So where was the TKO?
Right, so that's what it sounded like you were saying. You feel like it was a thumb, which is a foul, and wouldn't have qualified as a TKO. So if that is in fact the case, why not rematch Lara? Or did you have any say-so in the decision on which fight to take next?
Well, look, Lara doesn't want the rematch either. He's indicated that, and that's a tough fight for him too. And I don't think Lara can box any better than that. But Angulo can. It's a tough fight for both men. And that's not to say that they wouldn't fight each other more, but I think it's fair if you're going to ask them to put on a fight like that again, that both men are handsomely compensated, and a little bit more should be on the line, like a belt. So if a belt is on the line, if Lara gets a belt or Alfredo gets a belt, and the public wants to see that fight, then that fight makes more sense. But to ask two men to come back to back like that and put on a war like that again would be unfair. They deserve to fight other people, and other people are just skating by and getting peanuts. It's unfair. They proved that night what they were made of, so why bring them back together? They have the opportunity to fight somebody else.
Well, in keeping with your theory, no one believes that Angulo is going to be getting peanuts for a pay-per-view fight with Canelo Alvarez. So assuming that he's being handsomely paid, or at least respected on the check, isn't Alvarez a very tough challenge for Angulo? And not speaking for myself, but I have read criticisms that this could be a fight that could end his ascension through the ranks with 2 losses back-to-back, if that were to be the case. Why is this a good fight for Angulo?
Are you saying the criticism would be if Angulo lost 2 fights back-to-back?
Well, in the decision to take this fight, like if he's not ready for an Alvarez, or if he's overmatched in this fight, especially after coming off a loss, it's a very big risk to take for a career.
Yeah, but didn't Alvarez just come off a loss?
Yeah.
Well, what you asking me that question for? Alvarez just came off a dominating loss.
But as you know, a loss of Floyd Mayweather is not categorized quite like a loss to anybody else. And with Angulo suffering a TKO technically, and not having the draw to pull a pay-per-view off himself, this is what I'm asking you. Why is it not a bad choice for him to fight Alvarez now?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to make sense of what you're saying. So what are you saying? The loss that Alvarez took to Mayweather was a patty cake fight or something? He got dominated. He got beat up. Every round he got beat up. Now I know you got a personal thing against Floyd, so you're gonna ask me these questions, so I gotta answer you back truthfully. You're wrong there, man.
What personal thing against Floyd would have anything to do with the question I just asked you?
Well, you're trying to minimize his victory. That's what you're trying to do against Alvarez. Alvarez got dominated in a fight.
No, hold on. But hold on. In reality,
let me finish.
What I'm saying is that you're not criticized for losing to Mayweather because he's so dominant that he's come to a point where when you lose to him, the boxing critics and matchmakers don't suffer trying to make you another fight. It's just a way for fighters basically to get more popularity because no one can match Mayweather, so you don't get criticized like you do for losing to anyone else. It's quite, in fact, the opposite. I'm giving Floyd Mayweather more credit because he's one fighter that you can lose to and not be criticized for it.
Well, the bottom line is that you have a lot of people who disagree with you. Okay, so you kind of stand alone. You look like a fly in a bottle of milk making that statement. But what I'm saying is this. He got dominated. Alfredo Angulo took Lara to hell and back, gave him the worst beating he ever had in his career. The worst beating he ever had in his career. Knocked him down twice, beat him down, and was going to finish him before that unfortunate incident happened. So Alvarez, I feel like his back is more or less against the wall as opposed to Alfredo's. He's got more to lose. After all, they put him on a pedestal. He's the superstar. So he has more to lose. Nobody expected Alfredo to put on the performance that he did against Lara. If I recall, everybody said that Lara was going to box him and possibly TKO him. It was going to be a one-sided fight. Didn't happen that way. But when Canelo fought Floyd, it was 50-50. Canelo was bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, but he got dominated. He got treated like a kid. So I think you're wrong there, man, and you need to own up to that, don't you think?
I'm really not understanding what assertion you think I'm making, but it sounds to me like the answer to your question. My question is that you feel like Canelo was dominated by Floyd, and apparently Angulo can go and dominate Canelo like he did, like Floyd did, and that's why it's a good fight for him, because he's going to answer the critics by winning, even even though he's an underdog.
What I'm saying is Angulo deserves to fight Canelo just as much as anybody else, based on the performances. He deserves to fight Canelo just as well as Lara, Molina, and anybody else.
Okay, that wasn't the question, but that's an excellent, response.
Of course.
It's not, but that's not what I asked you, so maybe that's how you got offended. The reason that it's a tough fight for him in the way that I'm asking the question is because of perception. And again, my perception is not that he doesn't deserve the fight or that he can't even win the fight. I'm simply asking you as a trainer a different way. Let me phrase it. What are his advantages in a fight like this? Like you said, he didn't get the credit, respect, the deserved for Lara in the matchup. He was an underdog there. He's an underdog here. Why shouldn't he be? And what weapons does he have that people aren't considering?
Well, first of all, as a trainer, I don't live in a world of perception. I live in a world of reality, and that's what we go to train. That's what we go to training for. And I have a warrior here that at any given time, as he showed, he can end a fight. So it's just, once again, I don't live in a world of perception. That's your job and everybody else's job on the outside looking in. I have to live in reality. The reality of it is that he deserves the fight. The reality of it is that he's going to be in the fight. And the reality of it is he can win the fight.
Turning to another reality versus perception quandary in boxing. The next time we're talking, the next fight we're talking about could very well be Floyd Mayweather versus Amir Khan. And once again, you're going to be facing the perception that Amir Khan, if not doesn't deserve the fight, is going to be overmatched in the fight. So I'm going to ask you again, why is that untrue? And what weapons does Khan have that people are not considering against Floyd Mayweather?
Well, again, it's your personal opinion because
my personal opinion. This is like we said, it's perception. I'm bringing perception to you to get the reality from you. So it's not a personal attack or anything.
Well, no.
I'm trying to get your understanding, which is better than ours.
You have a perception that you're grasping onto, right? That's what you're grasping onto, other people's perception. You have to stand alone in this business, man, in your business, right? You're grabbing other people's perceptions. My job is not to grab other people's perceptions.
So I'm not standing at all. I'm simply asking you a question that you have more knowledge about than anyone talking about the fight other than the Mayweather camp.
Let me answer the question again, okay? You are riding on other people's perceptions. My job is not to ride.
So what's the reality?
The reality is I have to prepare Amir Khan to win a fight against Floyd Mayweather if he fights him. And that's my job, and that's what I'm going to do. And we'll see how it turns out. Then we could talk about perceptions. You're talking about you putting the cart before the horse. So you live in the perception before the fight. I'll live in the reality of it after the fight. And you can ask me, and I'll have to answer you honestly.
Okay, so the reality from Amir Khan right now, when you train him for Floyd, what is it that he brings to the table that you're going to work on against Floyd that will be successful? I mean, these are not unusual questions, man. Like, that's all I'm asking. Strategy-wise, what is it that Floyd Mayweather and his fans or those who perceive him to be one who could dominate Khan easily are missing?
Well, again, it's perception. My plan for Floyd, if this fight takes, just let Amir Khan be Amir Khan.
All right, moving on to Andre Ward, who was just successful in a dominating fashion against his last opponent, coming off a long layoff, an emotional challenge that he's talked about at great length, but now again riding the cusp of a victory and considered by most in perception the second pound for pound best fighter in the world. What challenges are left for him at 168? And how would you like to see him progress throughout this year? Are there fighters on your checklist that you feel he should be facing, and who are they?
Well, he has a lot of options at 168. The problem is that you don't want to get nobody at 168 wants to fight him, and that's the only thing that baffles me. Here's a man with the belt. Here's a man with the number 2 pound for pound. Looks like everybody would be knocking on the door to fight him. But again, this is other people who don't think that he has a challenge out there, and they're trying to create challenges for him, okay, which is quite unusual for me. But if another man earns his spot in fighting, you understand what I'm saying? You have people like George Groves, you have people like the guy who've earned their positions and spots in fighting in the rankings. But then you have other people turn around and say, well, these people are not good enough to fight Andre Ward. That's perception. What do you mean? He earned his way. The same thing happened with Andre Ward when he went into the Super 6. When you look at the Super 6, Mikhail Kessler and Arthur Abraham were projected to win it. Andre Ward was not even talked about being a winner, but he won it in dominant fashion. See, because we didn't listen to nobody's perceptions. Okay, we didn't listen to that. We knew. So you can't take that away from the other contenders and other fighters and say, well, he can't beat Andre Ward. Let's give him an opportunity. There are fights out there for Andre Ward. And then when it's time to move up to the next division, we will. He's not a light heavyweight yet. We'll move up at the appropriate time.
There is one fighter that people are calling for to see Ward, and he's readily admitted that he's not ready. That would be Gennady Golovkin. I'm wondering, do you agree with Gennady's perception of himself? And if you, like you said, there are fighters at 168 that can challenge Ward, who are they?
Well, you have the rematches in Carl Froch. You have Mikhail Kessler. You have George Groves, who just put on a magnificent performance against Carl Froch. You have a gold medalist in James DeGaulle coming up. You have some good fights. You have it's all the way through the line. Back in the old days when fighting was fighting, if you were in the top 15, you were entitled to a title shot if the champ so forth decided that if he wanted to give you that shot. Today it's a little bit different. So why it's like that, I don't know. As far as Gennady is concerned, they have a plan for their fighter, and I respect their plan. They want to clean out 160, and it's kind of the similar situation that we're in. They feel that they shouldn't have to move him up to get him a mega fight right now. They need to move him up at the right time. So it's a business, and and I respect Abel Sanchez and K2 and his people who are saying at this point, look, we're not moving him up to fight Ward right now. It's not time. We have unfinished business in this division, and we feel the same way. We have unfinished business in 168. And if it comes time, if Gennady moves up before we move up, then that'll be a great fight for the world to see. If we move up to 178 because we can no longer make 168, and then we'll go on to the next level, the next stage.
Of those fighters that you named at 168, and there's a handful of them that you just ran through, have any of them been offered the fight and turned it down? Which one of them, like you said, they don't want to fight him? Has anyone turned those fights down, and who's ducking you? Why is it so difficult to make those fights that you named happen?
Well, I think the appropriate question to ask is, have you heard anybody asking to fight Andre Ward? I think that would be the appropriate question to ask at this point. Who has called out Andre Ward at 168, and who wants to fight Andre Ward at 168? I think that would be the appropriate question to ask. Okay, not whether or not who's there to fight. So far, nobody's called him out, so we have to look at it like that. But as we speak, he's scheduled to fight in May, and we hope that takes place. And I know that they're looking into some opponents now, and we're hoping some things come to fruition.
Thank you. Radio Rahim with Virgil Hunter, one of the trainers of the year, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, brother.